Miawezon va AM show le joy news. Jiwa tonli ya mi yona ba Ghana month. Ela ba jiwa ya mi hofufu cho mi aba magic bola oji. You go.
Well, me for aka maimu Oti region into make a tree. Ya mama chen ya da ma se ne muni ya hia ewa ha ewa AM show so ye betwetwe nkomo nema ehia na fata na ye beka ewa ha. Well, I guess we're getting here because it's Ghana month, the first day of March.
Yeah.
It's actually my month.
Oh, really?
Yeah, my special month.
Were you born in March?
I was.
Which day in March?
I'll not tell you here.
Tell me off air.
I'll tell you later. But fantastic things are going to happen this month.
I didn't know that I could actually rattle away like that. It just came on the spur of the moment.
Yeah, you never know until you get there. But that also tells us something, right?
What did
Our local languages and everything
in
between. We don't use them enough.
Yeah.
We don't. I mean, if you were to hit the streets and ask the ordinary tree-speaking person, what is 5 or 7? What is yellow? What is black? Oh, well, those ones are common.
I have to count
what is green?
Tom before I can tell you it's 5.
What is green and the rest? Habambono and Akufo-Addo. I mean, it's a bit complicated, but we all try. We learn bit by bit and we get there. I'll not put you on the spot, though. I will not put you on the spot.
I learned that, we had a week of Proverbs, a day of Proverbs. I think it was just a week.
Oh, yeah.
And then we were marked. Apparently, our Proverbs.
The scholars gave us.
They marked us down. So this morning, let's try. I'm going to give you one ever proverb to start the show. Obede. Yeah. Whatever that means, if you know, please send it to us on our WhatsApp or when we open the phone lines. Good morning and welcome to the AM
But
show.
wait. How could you do this without telling me you were going to give a proverb? So I would give my own.
Okay. Give your proverb.
No, but you put me on the spot. Anyway, one that comes to mind immediately. Your food, your piano, and your piano. Do you understand that?
Tree is so easy. I can say something.
That's one of the simple ones.
There are lots.
They are so easy. So do you want to start this challenge?
Please, Benjamin.
Every morning on the AM show, one proverb.
No.
Through the month of March.
Oh.
Through the month of March.
Challenge accepted.
Deal. Don't you come unprepared. I've got my eyes on you.
This morning, of course, I'll serve you the news in a bit, and then we get into the news review. Our guest is Executive Director for the Alliance for Social Equity and Public Accountability, Mensa Thompson, will be our guest for the news review. Right
after that, we'll serve you sports. Muftau Nabila Abdullahi will be presenting that segment. You want to stay for that. And after that, of course, I'll serve you my blunt thoughts. Today, I've titled it The LGBTQI Plus Challenge and a Glorious SONA Opportunity Missed. Akufo-Addo on the spot. Today, I'm taking on Mr. President. I'm looking at him. That will be my focus. I always look forward to your blunt thoughts, because I think you change. You become a different person. When you get into the mood and you're delivering your thing. I'm in my element. Like a waxing lyrical, I'm like, yeah, Benjamin, give it to them. Become a different beast. Right, so after that, we get into the big stories. Now, there have been mixed reactions to Parliament's passage of the anti-LGBTQ plus bill. While we wait for President Akufo-Addo's decision on the bill, the conversations will still go on from many angles. Today, we'll speak to a former General Secretary of the Christian Council of Ghana, Reverend Dr. Kwabena Opuni-Frimpong, who heads the Alliance for Christian Advocacy Africa, will be our guest on this discourse. I'll look forward to that one, sweetie. But then, after that, President Akufo-Addo has appointed a new head for the Environmental Protection Agency. John Kingsley Krugu is our guest later on the show. He'll be telling us a lot about what he's going to be doing, what he expects in that position, what we can expect from him. Also coming up, some residents of Ajin Kotoku are protesting the siting of a factory in the area. They say it's dangerous for their existence. We've got Citizens Microphone on that today. Okay, so that's what the show looks like. You do know it's Ajin Kotoku, right? Ajin Kotoku. We don't want the people coming into the studio to come in. But we made us some names, right? Did we? For Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, I've always been saying Techiman Hanswa. Some places, if you've never been to, you simply can't get it. It's actually Techiman Hansa. Hansa? Yeah, right. Sort of. Makes sense. It's kind of like Nzulezu. Everybody says Nzulezu. Nzulezu. Yeah. Okay. So every day we learn something new. Thanks for teaching me that. Benjamin, you never miss an opportunity to school me, huh? Welcome to the AM show. Let's settle now for the news.
This is the AM News. To begin with, Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia is proposing the building of digital repository in all schools across the country. He says the quest to digitalize records of the schools in Ghana will preserve data and help in the accessing of documents by old students. He was speaking at the launch of the digital repository at Wesley Girls Senior High School in Cape Coast. There's more in this report.
The Vice President was excited that Wesley Girls Senior High School found it expedient to collate all the school's data in a digitized form. On the occasion of the first anniversary of his mother's passing, he supported the school with an amount of 300,000 to help build a repository.
This repository will prove to be a worthy asset, as it will help students retrieve their transcripts in record time to enable them meet tight deadlines for applications to pursue academic or other professional advancement. I can assure you that the immense benefits of having information and records digitalized will unfold with the passage of time as the school puts this project into full use. I am hopeful that in addition to academic and other records, the capacity of this repository will be expanded to hold historic documents that will continue to tell the story of the great Wegehe, a story that remains unfinished and which is so inextricably bound to the history of this nation and the history of Methodism in Ghana. As we launch this digital repository here today, it is my prayer that the same is done at all schools, transforming data from paper form to digital platforms and applying other digital compliance systems improves efficiency and makes life easier and better.
Dr. Bawumia also indicated how in the coming days, government intends to pursue the digitization agenda.
I know that many students of our senior high schools, including Wegehe, do not yet have the Ghana card. So far, we have issued Ghana cards from ages 15 and above. But I have good news for you. Starting in a few months, we are going to launch the project and implement the project starting in a few months of enrolling all senior high school students onto the Ghana card. So the process will begin, and interestingly enough, it's going to start in Cape Coast, so that we will roll it out to the rest of the country. So we'll be enrolling all the senior high school students, including all the students of Wegehe, onto the Ghana card, so that you don't have to go out to apply separately.
Headmistress of the school, Janet Ruby Siame, appealed to the Vice President to help complete some stalled Get Fund projects in the school.
2 Get Fund projects have still not been completed since 2008 and 2019 respectively. And they are a new assembly hall and a 6-unit 2-bedroom staff flat. 2, we need an asphalted road network in the school. And then 3, we need a school bus and a pickup. I know you will do it.
The Vice President was upbeat that government digitization drive will help fast-track the development of the country.
National Communications Officer of the Opposition National Democratic Congress, Sami Jemfi, is asking members of the Bono East Regional Communications team to sell the positive message of the party to electorate so the party achieves its objective of winning all 11 parliamentary seats across the region. He made this call at an event in Techiman to inaugurate the Regional Communications Working Committee of the party. Anas Sabit has more in this report.
The Bono East region has 11 constituencies, with the National Democratic Congress occupying 8 parliamentary seats and the New Patriotic Party having only 3. whilst the ruling NPP is doing all it could to maximize its seats. The NDC, on the other hand, is working on its Agenda 1111, where it aims at capturing all 11 seats across the region. The party today held a regional communications workshop where it inaugurated its Communications Working Committee, a group tasked to help sell the party's key messages to the electorates ahead of the December polls. Samit Jamfi is the National Communications Officer of the party.
It's all about educating them with the necessary information and facts on the party's messages, the campaign messages, key among which is the 24-hour economy of the visionary nation builder, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, and other important issues that should be at the fingertips of communicators, as well as the necessary skills and etiquettes that they need to be able to communicate effectively for the party.
Sami Jamfi is optimistic that with the shambolic performance of the ruling NPP, the party's Agenda 1111 is feasible and charged the Communications Bureau to work towards achieving this dream.
We want to win all 11 constituencies for President Mahama and our parliamentary candidates. We've done it before and we will do it again, because the vast majority of the people of this country know that this government, this Akufo-Addo government, has been corrupt, has been nepotistic, has been very insensitive, and has been a monumental failure. They know that this government is a sham. They are tired of the hardships. These and many more are what convince us that come 2024, December 7th, the people of Blue East will give us an overwhelming, emphatic mandate in all the 11 constituencies.
Some of the officers shared with Joy News what they learned in the process and how they intend to get the party's messages across.
But today's program has been very insightful and impactful. And so having an engagement with our National Communications Officer through the Regional Communications Bureau, but the information that they have given us today, it is going to help us a lot in the way we execute our work as communications officers. What we've learned today is inspiring, and he has indeed teaching us on, the nitty-gritties of communication. In you making sure that the message that you are giving out is not about you, but it's about the listeners, the audience.
Abdul Wahab Mariam is also a member of the regional communications team. She elaborates how she intends to channel the party's messages to women folks across the area.
As I am a woman, I'll make sure that I'll communicate to the women out there. The 24 hours economy, I have to enlighten them more. I have to let them know the importance of it and also the other messages that she's sharing across the country.
Dr. Awal Mohammed is the Deputy Director for Labour and Industrial Relations for the National Democratic Congress. He admonished members of the party, particularly the communications team, to be calm in explaining the party's policies to enable the area experience peace before, during and after the December polls.
We have talked to our people and we keep on calling on them that we should be calm and that this election is a must win for NDC. And the only thing is that you have to be calm. Even when you are on radio, people will provoke you. Let's try as much as possible to take our time and explain our policy for them to understand.
Anna Sabit, Joy News, Tichiman.
In other stories, Senior Research Fellow at the Nguchi Memorial Institute, Dr. Daniel Ahinfo, has called for community sensitization and awareness campaigns to educate community members on the management and prevention of diabetes, as the condition has become prevalent among young people aged 25 and above. Speaking at the Contextual Awareness, Response and Evaluation Dissemination meeting, he called for community and stakeholder engagement in tackling diabetes and other non-communicable diseases.
I think the importance of research is that it generates evidence, and that at the end of it we should use the evidence to make changes in a way that will be beneficial for our healthcare system, or for the improvement of the people or the community where we did the research. For me, that is the primary thing. The other side of it is that, you see, as academicians, oftentimes our first if you like, one of our key priorities is that when we do research, we want to publish. But I think we have moved on from there. When we do research, When you do research like this, we don't do it for research sake, just to put it in the international community for those who want to read about it to read about it. When you do research, you should engage with the community of partners, and this will include the ministry, the care providers, civil society organizations, other researchers, and in fact, all the people or all the stakeholders that need the research, just so that we get the right solutions, for the right time and for the right people. We have to find more efficient and effective ways. Again, one thing that came up was the need to raise awareness. Oftentimes we take it for granted, but find efficient ways to continue to raise awareness about the problem in the community. Because other than that, when they sleep over it, they will forget about everything. They will unlearn everything that they have learned. And I think, so sustainability is very important here. So we would continue to engage with the very little resources we have, just to make sure that people understand the problem of diabetes, people are aware of what diabetes is and what it can do to them, but also to do a lot of the more preventive things like exercise, eating well, and what time of the day not to eat and what to eat, etc., etc.
Still on health, medical authorities in the Upper West region are worried about the rise in cerebrospinal meningitis in the area, with 9 out of 11 municipalities recording suspected cases. Some 18 people have lost their lives due to the disease. Deputy Director of Health, Dr. Collins Boateng Dankwa, who disclosed this to Joy News, said despite the increase in figures, the region has not reached the stage of an outbreak. Rafiq Salam reports.
3 years ago, the Upper West region recorded one of its worst performances in cases of cerebrospinal meningitis, CSM. The region recorded over 300 cases and over 44 deaths, prompting a visit to the region by then Deputy Minister and now Minister of Health designate, Dr. Bernard Okoboy. The Upper West region, due to its hot weather conditions, especially in the dry season, is considered by health practitioners as CSM zone. CSM is an airborne bacterial disease usually caused by the Neisseria meningitis bacteria. This mainly causes an infection of the meninges resulting in meningitis. It can also be caused by virus. Speaking in an exclusive interview with Joy News, Deputy Upper West Regional Director of Health Services in charge of public health, Dr. Collins Boateng Dankwa, disclosed that the region, since the start of January, has recorded 81 suspected cases of the disease, 18 confirmed cases, and 4 deaths. All 11 municipal and districts in the region recorded cases except 2, Sisala West and West districts.
We have different strains. Out of the 18, 17 of them are Streptococcus pneumoniae. There's only one that is Neisseria meningitis. And with the Streptococcus pneumoniae, the case fatality, when I say case fatality, what I mean is the way it may cause death is low compared to the Neisseria meningitis, and that one we have recorded only 1 case. But the Streptococcus pneumoniae, it spreads faster, so we need to adhere to certain protocols so that we don't get into an outbreak. Yes, so, and we have also recorded 4 deaths. 4 deaths. So with the 18 confirmed cases, if you want me to give you the breakdown, so we have 4 from Nandom, and then we have another 3 from Jirapa, and then we have Wild West 4, and then only 1 case, and then 1 municipal here 6.
Despite the cases recorded, Dr. Collins Boateng Dankwa explained that the situation is not alarming.
The region is currently not in an outbreak. So before you say you are in an outbreak, we look at certain things. So we look at your population and then your suspected cases. So when you come to Upper West like this, or when you look at it, we have what you call threshold, alert threshold, and then outbreak. So currently we are in the alert threshold. We are not in an outbreak yet.
He allayed the fears of the public that plans are afoot to deal with it.
No, Ghana Health Service, the interest is for us to detect or identify the cases early and then manage them. So as I'm talking to you now, the region has been supplied with adequate spinal needles. We use the spinal needles to do what we call lumbar puncture, and that is what we use to confirm or to know whether the person is in the probable stage or is having the disease. So we have adequate spinal needles to take cerebrospinal fluid from the spinal cord, which they have provided, and all districts are having them adequately to do the testing. And we have also been supplied with adequate logistics for gram staining before they bring the sample to the regional hospital for the confirmation. We do what we call gram staining at the district and then the health facilities, which they are having adequate logistics for that. We have been provided.
Dr. Collins Boateng Dankwa also spoke of preventive measures put in place to deal with it through sensitization and education of the general populace.
Talking to the public in terms of sleeping in well-ventilated rooms. You know, when you go to some of the communities, the ventilation level in the rooms are not all that adequate. So some of them have even now restructured their building by breaking some holes to create adequate ventilation, adequate fluid intake. You know, when you take the fluid well, that is where it will prevent the cracks. There will be adequate moisturization in your body or skin. And then finally, we are also talking to the general population to prompt or report to health facilities as soon as possible once they come out with the signs and symptoms of meningitis. Once you find out you have high-grade fever, an early onset of headache or unexpected or unexplained headache, and you find out that you have neck stiffness, quickly come to the hospital.
Reporting for Joy News, Rafik Salam. Wa.
Rafik Salam there from WA. Now, Ghana's youth have been urged not to allow themselves to be used to foment trouble during the electioneering year. Speaking during a health and peace walk organized by a WA-based youth group, Jongo Palace, Executive Secretary of the National Peace Council in the Upper West Region, Emmanuel Dayoma, called on the youth to choose the path of peace and not to allow themselves to be used as instruments of destruction. Another report by Rafik Salam.
Over 10,000 youth, drawn from over 100 youth groups and camps in the one municipality and beyond, took part in the health and peaceful walk codenamed Walk with Jonjo. This came on the heels of last year's successful event, which saw 70 youth groups participating in. The youth groups, majority of whom are from political parties, religious groups, professional organizations, and football supporters, took part in the event organized by the Wajangberi-based youth club, Jonjo Palace. The attendance was massive as most of the youth spilled all principal streets in the Wa Township. They walk, jog, dance and music played on sound systems, kept on tracks, and also from local drums. Convener of Walk with Jonjo, Baba Sadat, explained why they have embarked on the walk.
You know, as election is getting near, this is 2024, the incumbent MPP said they want to retain power and break the 8. The opposition NDC also said they want to wrestle power from the hands of MPP. And we are also in a war zone environment, surrounded by Burkina Faso, Togo, and Niger, and other Francophone countries. And definitely, if peace is not paramount, something must happen. And as we are getting into the election year, we need to position the youth as an agent of peace before, during, and after the elections. And that's the reason why we've brought all these youth groups together to drum home the word of peace, so that they will know that before election, after election, whatever that happens, happens. And there's no need to, for chaos. People have to go about their normal duties and live in harmony.
Other organizers of Walk with Jonjo also took further light on the event.
We are all aware that if a country can grow, it is the youth that have to drive the peace of the car. That is the more reason why we have invited our security service, so that there will be a sense of harmony during and after elections.
In the circle of life, some moments stand out as extraordinary. Today, we explore the unique stories of first-time mothers who have welcomed their bundles of joy on the rarest of days, 29th of February. Joy Prime's Lois Adeyemi was at the Greater Accra Regional Hospital and has more in the following report.
Genevieve is brimming with loads of excitement. Excitement of being a first-time mother.
I realized I was pregnant. I was so happy. Even my mom. Because we wanted a baby. Then he came.
But her joy of being ushered into motherhood is tinged with the anticipation of celebrating her daughter's birthday every 4 years.
Frank, I didn't want to give birth on 29th because it's actually a leap year which counts every 4 years. God has reasons for everything, that is what I think. Because everybody is celebrating the birthday on a normal day. Then you alone, you celebrate your birthday every 4 years. It's weird.
Abigail yearns for the joy of motherhood. She was due to deliver on 28th of February, but that did not happen. The 29-year-old is eager to welcome her little one on any day except the elusive 29th February.
29th Panday. Hey, I would love to celebrate every year. A memorable year of the pain I went through during this childbearing and everything. I want to experience it all over again every year. And look at the fact that I have to do that every 4 years. I wouldn't feel that feeling. I need to feel it each and every year.
But what if Abigail's baby refuses to be born in March?
Hey!
29th.
Because I'm not told so. I'm going to count dates with 20. Hey! Because I can't take 29th. Hey! No, shouldn't even say that one, that 29th. Yetra, we go to first match.
Well, for Sharifa, she cared less about the date. The moment she held her baby, all the pain seemed insignificant. Birthdays, leap years, it's all a background noise to the new mother. What matters to her is this little one in her arms.
I was not expecting it, but it happened. And I'm happy with it.
They have to see it as a special day, and they have to recognize it as such and be happy that they have delivered on that special day. And for the kids too, you have to accept it and also be happy that you have been delivered on that day, because it happens every 4 years and it's a special day.
In this maternity ward, new life begins its journey, and each birth, a chapter in a unique story. Whether it is the excitement of a leap year birthday or the joy of a regular celebration, one thing is for sure: motherhood transcends dates and times. Lois Shola Adeyemi's report for Joy Prime.
Lois Adeyemi Shola's report was a wonderful one. Now, that's how we wrap up for the AM News on the AM Show. Up next is the news review. Please stay for that. Welcome back on the AM Show. This is a news review where I like to say we assess the news stories and see how it resonates with us. My name is Sweetie Aboshi, and joining me for this segment is Executive Director for Alliance for Social Equity and Public Accountability, Nana Thompson is our guest. Good morning, Mensa. How are you? Good morning. If you can hear me, you have to unmute. It's a pleasure to have you on the show this morning.
Good morning, and many thanks for having me.
Right. So before we get into the stories, what's the most topical issue that's in your awareness this morning? Any issue of national concern that's occupying the most space in your head this morning?
Well, we are looking at the State of the Nation's address, which was recently delivered by the president, which I think we're still discussing. Parliament is still deliberating on. And so I think it's a critical issue. The energy crisis, a few days ago, Ghana, the entire half of Accra was thrown into a total state of darkness. And I think that it's also become a big challenge, especially when we were told during the State of the Nation address by the president that the energy sector has been managed properly. There are no deaths and there are no doomsday, only for in less than 24 hours for us to be thrown in a state of total darkness. I think that was also, quite a challenge that Ghanaians have to grapple with. And then there's also an interesting conversation happening with the impending nomination of a running mate for the NDC, which is also a very interesting conversation that is also quite making the headlines around here.
I think we should just begin from that, because obviously that's what makes the headlines for most of our newspapers and online articles. That yesterday John Dramani Mahama picked Professor Nana Addo again as his running mate. The question on my mind is Ghana ready for a female president? Because John Mahama can only go for one more term. Do you think Ghana is ready for that? Should John Mahama win the bid to become president and he completes that one term, there's a possibility that Professor Nana Addo would assume his position as president? Do you think we are ready for that?
Of course. There's never a good time for anything. As a gender activist myself, I think it's going to be a very, very interesting scenario. We've been grappling with the affirmative action bill in Parliament for quite some time. Again, we've also been grappling with the number of female representation in Parliament, which is always below 30%. In fact, in the last Parliament, it was just about 22%, which we think is poorly inadequate. And so, women participation in our democratic process, women participation in our governance process is very, very key. And so anything that augments that, I think is something that, we firmly support, and we think that, maybe the women will be a bit more compassionate. Then again, we've seen women occupy certain positions and they have not fared quite properly. Several instances I can mention. And so I think the focus is how do we encourage and groom more competent females to be, involved, in our politics, in our democratic process, in governance, to contribute, their quota to national development. And I think that that is what, must be done. A lot of policies needs to be taken, including, reducing the cost burden of politics and elections, to create room for women and, competent women to participate in politics. Also, our politics is a bit too polarized. The insults and the attacks do not also sometimes encourage certain well-meaning, female professionals to also, go into it. But if you look at the trend, you see, the former president, John Mahama, has been a very firm gender and advocate for women for a long time. And if you follow the trend, he's the first president to appoint up to 40% of his appointees to be women. He gave a lot of women opportunities in his government between 2012 and 2016. He had so many women serving in top positions. He appointed the first female electoral commissioner chairperson. in the history of the country, and so he appointed so many first females. And if you look at how he picked Professor Nana Addo, from University of Cape Coast, made her education minister, he had this, this whole feminine, agenda at heart. That
Mr. Thompson, besides being a woman and how that augurs well for female representation in our politics or governance, what really does Professor Jan Thompson brings to the table in terms of her political, prowess? Because she's coming from an academic background. She's an author, she's a professor, and until she was selected to be the running mate for John Dramani Mahama in 2016, she was also Minister for Education, but when it comes to the political landscape, do you think that she has all that she needs to deliver on this mandate? Aside being we are obviously very happy that we have a female running mate and women representation, but does she have what it takes to run this course?
No doubt. I think that the competencies of Professor Nana Addo cannot be taken away from her. I mean, she's an academic.
Right.
One of the first female vice chancellors we had in this country to manage a whole university, and the intricacies that goes into managing an academic environment such as a university, and for that matter, University of Cape Coast. It's a very challenging ground. And she held it very well. She brought the four together. Apart from that, former President Mahama is a career politician. And as a career politician, he's lived his life through the politics from member of parliament up to vice president to president. Professor Jan Thompson is an academic, lived through the academic background, policy, academics. And so he's not a typical political person. And I think most of the time, that's what the consideration has been in terms of choosing a running mate, that if the candidate himself is a purely political party person, then you need to bring somebody who is madly political so that that person can complement, so that person can attract floating voters, the person can attract other interest groups, can attract academia, can attract industry, can attract other generic groups who form a core of our voting class. And I think that is what the consideration has been in terms of choosing Professor Nana Addo, that we don't need somebody with a lot of collateral damage. We don't need somebody with a lot of mud that people can throw mud at her, because at the end of the day, you cannot list a single, allegation of corruption or a single scandal which Professor Jan Thompson's will come up, especially when she served as minister for education, a whole ministry of education where we know how, the challenges there. We've seen what her successors have gone through at the ministry, and she handled the ministry with not a single allegation of corruption. And so you would want to minimize the collateral damage as well. You would want to look at somebody that, okay, it's about 8 to 9 months to elections. Do I bring somebody who, at the end of the day, my opponents will be able to throw a lot of mud at the person? Will I bring somebody who, at the end of the day, I'm going to have to go another round trying to, rehabilitate the person's image or the person's character in the eyes of the electorate? And so, in order not to take that risk, I think that Professor Nana Jane was a safe bet for His Excellency. I mean, the collateral shocks are minimal. I mean, he's gone with her before. She's already been sold to the electorate, and so it makes the campaign easier. Now, what they have to do is to build on on what they've done in the last elections. What needs to be done is that the strategies around Professor Nana Addo should be a bit different this time around. because she's an academic, and we know that in Ghana, a lot more of the electorate, especially the female electorate, are traders and the ordinary women on the streets. And I think that a lot more needs to be done to endear her to the ordinary voters, voting
I like that
women.
you said a lot more needs to be done, because the question what I intended to ask was that as a vice president, should she be given the opportunity to serve as vice president, she would be required to serve in the capacity of, economic roles, make decisions that affect not just the educational sector of the country, but cut across all regions, from health, economy, investment, trade, oil, energy, all that. So do you think that she has the experience, the track record to do that? And can the NDC sell this to win in December 2024?
If you know how difficult it is to run a university, running a university is like running a country. Taking economic decisions, taking managerial decisions.
You can't compare running a country to a university. A university is
no,
just
you can never compare. You can never compare anything to running a country. But your experiences in your previous jobs will come in handy when the task comes ahead. And so that's why I'm saying that if you look at the intricate nature of running an academic institution, academic environment, which include managing people, managing resources, managing everything. I mean, economics is not a rocket science. We've seen people with PhDs in economics thrown our country into a state of mess.
Did you say economics is not rocket science?
Yes, but we've seen head of the EMTs who are not economists, like former President John Mahama. When he was as an EMT, he was not an economist. But we experienced the highest growth in the last 15 to 20 years in our economy under him as head of the economic management team in 2011. And so it is not rocket science. It is not the big English. It's not the economic theories that you can propound. It's about the simple decisions. How do we improve on the lives of the ordinary Ghanaian? How do we make, what do we call it? I mean, the simple things. Putting food on people's tables, creating jobs. And that is why, this 24-hour economy policy by the NDC is quite revolutionary. And so I think that there are a lot of good hands that are going to complement Professor Nana Addo when she enters that role. There's no doubt about that. Even Dr. Bawumia has come to tell you that he did not take any of those decisions alone as vice president. So what makes you think that, all the economic decisions are going to be left in the hands of Professor Nana Addo? That's
I
really
didn't
a poor
say
argument.
that, but I was just inquiring about her competence to do that.
That's why I'm saying that it is about the desire. Economics is about the desire to improve on the life of your people. It's as simple as that. It has nothing to do with the big economic theories that people have been propounding in this country, which has landed us where we are today. And so I think that we should be less focused, these elections, we should be less focused on people who come to us with serious degrees and all manner of propounding all manner of theories, which at the end of the day do not benefit the ordinary Ghanaian. We should be listening to people who come with simple economic policies, the basic things that are going to improve the life of the ordinary Ghanaian, to bring the price of goods and services down, to bring the exchange rate, the economic fundamentals down, to create jobs for the people. Those are the things that we want to hear in these elections, not people who come and tell us theories.
Let me follow through from where you are in your trail of thoughts, and ask, when you talk about simple economic policies, what did you think about the President's State of the Nation's address and his praises of some of the policies that he says has contributed to the stabilization and growth or reduction of inflation in the country? Specifically, he mentioned the gold for oil policy, that's the reason why inflation has gone down and the country's economy is looking good. Is that a simple economic policy? Is that the sort of policy that you think we need? What did you think about it?
Is it?
I'm asking you.
I think the president has lost sight of reality. I mean, listening to him during the State of the Nation address gave me a very strong impression that this president is either he's not getting the proper briefings, either the people who are writing his speeches are being economical with the truth, or either he himself is very, very detached from the realities of the people and the realities of the country. And for once, I thought it was another country, State of the Nation, he was reading. I didn't feel that was this country, a State of the Nation. I mean, State of the Nation is not a budget reading, neither it is a political campaign platform, neither is it a place to make lofty promises again after 7 years.
Right. You know, I've heard people review the State of the Nation's address, and even Professor Addo yesterday said it's one of the best he's heard. Some would argue that indeed the way they're running this gold for oil thing, buying oil, yes, in CDs, and completely removing the dollar in the transaction of all that, actually does good for us.
Do you want me to go into the good for oil? I was trying to avoid the good for oil.
Well, because you mentioned policies, and I'm just trying to make a point that you cannot say that we need simple economic policy. There's nothing like a simple economic policy. Every economic policy has repercussions on the growth or stability of the economy. So, well, please share your thoughts. I will not interrupt you. Go on. Yeah.
Yes. So the fundamentals, right? So the economy. When I say simple economic policies, I'm looking at the fundamentals of the economy, the basic microeconomic indicators. One, the things that improve the lives of the people. Two, providing basic infrastructure to expand trade, providing the enabling environment. In terms of managing the monetary aspect of the economy. You know, the economy is run on two fronts, the fiscal front and the monetary front. Managing the monetary front well, and then also managing the fiscal well. If you manage the fiscal well, it affects internal trade and its activities. And we've seen consistently in the last 7 years that, you know, this government has been quite contradictory in its economic policy implementations. And I'll give you an example. In the 2024 budget, the finance minister who runs the fiscal front of the economy went to Parliament, wants to increase VAT by about 2.7 or 2.5%, want to put additional taxes, levies, and what have you. And all these taxes and levies are triggers to inflation. They are things that are going to trigger inflation because they are consumption taxes. VAT is a consumption tax. Any addition of VAT, will skyrocket, price of goods and services on the market. Now, when price of goods and services goes up on the market, what does the central bank who manages the monetary front do? What they do is that they also then try to manage the inflation by increasing the policy rate. Well, what happens when the central bank increases the policy rate is that interest rates goes up, lending rates goes up. And businesses now do not have access to capital, or they have access to capital at expensive or high cost. That is inimical to businesses. And that is what has created the unprecedented unemployment crisis we are in. Because businesses cannot grow anymore because of the taxes that has been propounded on businesses in this country. Import duties. Go to the port. Today, Jubilee is like a cemetery. People used to do 100 containers a day. Today are not doing one. And so when we talk about simple economic policies, it's not about the theories you've learned in books that you come and sit and give us in a lecture. It's about understanding the needs of the people. What do the people of Ghana need now at this particular moment? Is it economic theories or is it jobs? If it is jobs, how do I create jobs for the people? And that's why we don't need people whose head is filled with only economic theories, but with no attachment to the realities of the people, who come and stand in front of us and 7 years after being in office still want to propound to us economic theories. We're not going to accept that. And that's why I'm saying that we've seen people who were not economists as head of the economic management team.
Right.
And they've done very, very better than even the people with economic degrees. Look at Dr. Aliu Mahama as head of the economic management team under President Akufo, where we enjoy some of the best stability in the history of our country. Interest rates were very low. Banks were chasing people with loans. Aliu Mahama was an engineer or an architect or so. He wasn't an economist. But he managed, but as head of the economic management team, based on the advice and the team he worked with, he was able to achieve that stability for us in terms of the economy. And so, Professor Jana Nopoko-Addo not being an economist, does not in any way affect the management or her ability to understand the needs of the people. Because you don't need an economic degree to understand the needs of Ghanaians as we speak. You don't need an economic degree. Okay. You just need a brain to understand and passion, compassion, be able to be sensitive about the plight, what the ordinary market woman is going through at this stage in the life of our country. To be able to lead the country and know that when you are making policies, when you're implementing policies, you have the ordinary market woman in mind. You have the ordinary woman at the hospital bed in mind. You have the ordinary laborer in mind. You have the ordinary kayaye in mind. Those are the people, those are the qualities we need now in terms of running this country, and not the economic theorists, not people who come and give us lectures.
Right. Let's move on to the issue of the power outages that we are facing recently. Yesterday, we saw the two brothers in Parliament debating, and John Jinapor said categorically that the country is broke. We cannot afford to buy fuel to power thermal plants to supply energy to everywhere. And we even saw that while in Parliament, the Electricity Company of Ghana disconnected the Parliament House of the grid. What are your thoughts on what's happening in the country? Obviously, it's not doomsday. Or is it doomsday?
It is. Okay. It is doomsday. All
right.
It is doomsday. In 2015, when we entered into an energy crisis, we were told that the crisis was from two fronts. One, the generational front, because the capacities that government had was quite lower. We didn't have a lot of generational capacity to meet the demand that we have. And two, it was also financial, because government did not have money to be able to pay for gas that we're getting from WAPCO and other traders. And so it was two fronts, and that's what gives us doomsday. Today, we have adequate capacity, to the extent that the people in government now are telling us today that the previous government left us with excess capacity, more than what actually we need in terms of capacity. And so, if it is generational capacity and financial capacity, and today we have excess capacity, then what is the problem? It's only one, it's financial.
Yes.
ECG is in serious debt. The IPPs are owed to the brim. People and government entities are on top of the creditors list of ECG.
Yeah. And I like what they said. This connection is for everybody, whether you're a government, official institution, or an independent, household. These connections are for everybody. Go on.
But you know what this tells you? This gives you, an idea of the destruction and the poor management that has happened in the last 7 years. And so you could see that the mismanagement is not really only at the national level. It goes down to the government department and agencies. It goes down up to the ministries. It goes down up to all state institutions. Because how can an institution like Parliament be disconnected?
Yeah. While they were talking about power, I thought that made interesting TV to watch.
A day after the president went to stand there during the State of the Nation address to tell us that he has managed the power sector well, there are no debts and there is no doomsday. And we are not angry. We are not asking questions. We are not demanding accountability, that Mr. President. Less than 24 hours ago, you came to stand at this place, this same Parliament, to tell us that you have managed the power sector well, there are no debts and there are no doomsday. How then has the institution of Parliament undergone a power disconnection in such a manner that even threatened the lives of some of the staffs of Parliament? I heard some people were trapped in elevators in the House, and it was bizarre. And we need to demand accountability for some of these things. The power sector has been poorly mismanaged. the previous government brought what we call ESLA. The purpose of ESLA was to resolve the legacy debt in the energy sector. When this government came, what they've done was that they've capped the ESLA and they've securitized the ESLA for an upfront loan and chopped the money. And so now, the process of ESLA that should be going to pay the legacy debt in the sector is now being used to service loans. ECG is also not collecting enough to be able to service its creditors. They are not collecting enough. Again, the issue of power theft, illegal connections, the inefficiencies in the power distribution sector. And this was what the US government wanted to assist us to solve through the MCC2, to revolutionize the power distribution sector, which was a process that began way before this government came into office. And when they came to change the structure, want to bring their own company, PDS, to come and take over, which landed us into a murky scandal, which disrupted that revolutionary, agenda that would have made our power distribution systems quite efficient. And so today there are no investment in distributions. Our power transmission lines are obsolete. Transformers are obsolete. There's so many things because ECG doesn't have the capacity and the resources to make the adequate investment to improve efficiency in the power distribution sector. So all our woes are self-inflicted. Our problems are self-inflicted. Because the purpose of that transformation in the power sector was to solve these challenges, was to ensure the US government, through the Millennium Challenge Compact, wanted to help us to avoid Ghana going into another round of doomsday again, which brought our economy on its knees in 2015, and said that since you've gone through an IMF program to kind of stabilize the economy, let's come up with a program that will revolutionize your power distribution sector, that will stabilize power distribution, improve efficiency, improve revenue collection, reduce legacy debt. You came and you tore down all the system, destabilize the system, and in an attempt to profit from what the US government wanted to help us do, want to bring your own company, PDS, assemble some group of people, decided to come and sell our asset to yourselves. Today, we don't know what has happened to the PDS investigations. After we were told that certain people acted inappropriately, as we speak, nobody has been held accountable for that mess that happened that made us lose over $800 million that we were supposed to get from the Millennium Development Compact. Nobody has answered for that. So it is what it is. It is what it is. We are in doomsday because of these inefficiencies, because of the lack of investment in the power sector, because ECG is in serious debt crisis, because government is owing the IPPs to a tune of almost $1 billion, and they cannot pay. The IPPs cannot continue to incur these debts. Recently, when they threatened to shut down, they went to find a paltry sum of money and give it to them. Very soon, the IPPs are also going to rise up again because they need money. Otherwise, they're going to call on the sovereign guarantee that you provided when the energy sector was restructured, and that is going to put another pressure on government. So that is the crisis that we are in. And let nobody attempt to tell us that otherwise, that it is not doomsday, that this is a challenge, that it is a planned maintenance. Which planned maintenance throws half a country into a state of total darkness? Which planned maintenance?
Mr. Thompson, you've made a lot of valence points, but this 23 million Ghana cedis that Parliament owes, let's see how it goes, because that's a lot of money, nearly $1.something million. And apparently they promised to pay the debt in a week or so. That is why they were reconnected. When they were first disconnected last month. But right, we have to get into the newspapers, do some headlines quickly before we wrap up because we're out of time. On the front page of the Ghanaian Times, it says, Prof. Jane Nano Pukwajiman again. It's Jane and John. Mahama picks Jane again on, that is for the Daily Guide newspaper. It says, Mahama picks Jane again on the front page. And the Ghanaian Times is saying it's Prof. Jane Opokwajiman again. NDC has no vision. That's on page 3 of the Daily Guide. That's according to NS Akufo-Addo from the Parliament House. Mixed reactions greet anti-gay bill on page 3 of the newspaper. Mr. Speaker shed the political colors. That's an editorial in the Daily Guide newspaper. And defrauding in the name of mobile money. This is a thoughts piece from Kwesi Kojo Kokovi. Now, on the Daily Graphic, it's John and Jane again at the front page. Assent to LGBTQ plus bill, Christian Council and others appeal to the president. The story of John and Jane again is on the page 3 of the newspaper. And it says, Chad opposition leader killed fighting security forces. That story, Inside Africa, is on page 5 of the Daily Graphic. And on the back page, it says 952 children die from road crashes between 2019 and 2021. That's a awfully big number of children to lose in road crashes. But that's all time will allow us for this newspaper review. My guest was Mr. Mensa Thompson, who's the Executive Director for the Alliance for Social Equity and Public Accountability. Thank you so much, Mr. Mensa Thompson, for joining us. But before
Thank you so much for having me this morning.
Good morning. But before I go, let me tell you about Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic. They're offering free prostate screening and free female fertility screening. Their locations here in Accra, they're on the Spintex Road, opposite the Shell signboard. In Kumasi, they're in Kronum, Abohia, behind Angel Educational Complex. In Takrade, they're in Anaji Estate, and in Tema, Community 22. In Techiman, Hansa. Benjamin told me it's Hansa this morning. You can call them on 0244-867-068 or 0274-234-321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic diseases. That's how we wrap up for this segment, but there's more coming up, sports, and then Benjamin's blunt thoughts. Please stay with us.
You know, we're in Ghana month, so you'll be hearing a lot of the local languages we speak. My Ghana is not that good, among others, but this is where I go blunt. This is where I say it as it is, without mincing words, without caring, minding whose ox is God. And in fact, today I'm going to take on Mr. President himself, the number one citizen, number one gentleman of our land. I've titled my blunt thoughts today, The LGBTQI plus challenge and the glorious SONA opportunity missed. Akufo-Addo on the spot. The LGBTQI plus challenge and the glorious SONA opportunity missed. Akufo-Addo on the spot. In recent times, on the back of some commentary I've made on the LGBTQI, I've actually had one person, some people, a lot of people understand that I am not against the community in any way in terms of wanting any harm to come to them or thinking they are any less human or denigrating them. But in Africa, the trend shows that it points in a certain direction when it comes to the intolerance levels. The Afrobarometer put it out a number of years ago when it comes to LGBTQI plus. And in simply referencing that and referencing some countries, some people felt aggrieved. But listen, I put it out there as it is without emotions or sentiment. Well, this is where I actually get to express a bit of emotion. But what is fact, right? Without caring whose ox is God and without necessarily aiming at harming anybody. But at the same time, I want to say as a premise before I get to the LGBTQI plus conversation that I do not take pleasure in lampooning Mr. President. I remember meeting him at the Head of State Awards sometime late last year. And he had this look on his face when he saw me. I'm sure he was thinking, that's that naughty little boy who's been giving me a heck of a time. But anyway, to more serious stuff. So the LGBTQI plus challenge. Here's what I think. It's been 3+ years in the running. Let's look at the timelines and then we'll look at what exactly has happened. The bill that has been passed now by Parliament, well, it proposes, first off, a 3-year jail term for engaging in LGBTQI plus activities. 3 years if you engage in what it terms of as LGBTQI plus activities, no matter what the activity may be. If it is seen to contravene the law, 3 years. 5-year imprisonment for promoting LGBTQI plus activities. If you're seen to be promoting it, whether you're a media person or whatever, you get 5 years. Now, some have said this makes for very curious reading on human rights grounds, but we'll get to that. But let's move on to the timelines and see what exactly happened. The bill that has been passed was introduced to the House in July 2021. You remember Sam George, together with his compadres, actually brought that to bear. Then in August 2021, the first reading by Parliament was held, but since then, processes had stalled. There had been a lot of conversation. In fact, when the American Vice President, Kamala Harris, was in town, Akufo-Addo would reference it widely. Akufo-Addo would also reference it, talking about a watered-down, altered version. Then, just this February 2024, the bill has now been passed. Let's go to the next slide. But here are some reactions, yeah? Some have forecast reactions. Others are real-time reactions. Now, the U.S. Department of State has said that the bill threatens fundamental freedoms such as speech, press, and assembly for all Ghanaians. Free speech, press, and assembly for all Ghanaians, particularly those identifying as LGBTQI+. Then, they also say that criminalizing the LGBTQI+ individuals and those who do not report them undermines societal rights as a whole. And finally, the United States supports calls for a review of the bill's constitutionality to safeguard the rights of all individuals in Ghana. Let's go to the next slide. Now, I've actually said, some have even forecast that, look, it could get to the point where the Speaker of Parliament and some officials of Parliament, or all of them, are banned from entering the United States. Now, while I say that we ought to tread cautiously with how this law will be applied in order not to victimize anybody, these are our brothers and sisters, at the same time, I cannot for the life of me understand why, in any case, any institution, any country will want to foist its own beliefs, belief systems, or ideologies on anyone else. I always say that on the back of poverty, stark poverty in Africa, sometimes some things are attached to us that are not attached to other countries. And I know a friend who feels aggrieved by it, but when I speak for one side, I must speak for the other. This will not be done in Saudi Arabia, will it? No, they are well off. They have their own fallbacks when it comes to oil. You can't go there. In fact, when the World Cup was held there, you wouldn't go and tell them that, oh, necessarily we need to drink alcohol. It's a cultural practice, right? So in this instance as well, while I respect everything going on, and as a student of international politics and all of that, sovereignty, where does it end? Because we've lost our financial, economic sovereignty, sometimes we're told on everything what to do. It is not to say that maybe, because things change. In the 2010s, or even before 2010, there was a ruling in the UK about what a man was. You had to have the gonads. You had to have the, the structure of a male anatomy. You had to have certain representative genes and hormones and all of that. It's been a switch. But the fact that some society may feel it has progressed in a certain way does not mean everyone must progress along those lines at the same time. It's not even possible. Not economically, not socially, not culturally. Do you get it? But sometimes when you talk, people mistake it and say, oh, you are aiming at this community. I'm not aiming at any community, here or there. So the UN AIDS group has also said, it highlights that while the bill has not yet become law, its potential enactment would impact everyone in Ghana. That Ghana has a reputation as a stable country upholding the rule of law and its commitment to human rights principles, including equality and non-discrimination. Again, if the bill becomes law, it could fuel fear, hatred, and violence against LGBTQ+ citizens, impede access to essential services, and hinder Ghana's development progress, including efforts to combat HIV/AIDS. But let's just go back to the last slide. I wanted to take a look at something. It has also been shown, you see, when these arguments are made, we must look at all angles, a few angles that we can remember. It has also been shown that in the LGBTQI+ community, scientifically, HIV/AIDS, especially among homosexuals, is more prevalent. If you remember, you take your mind back to the 80s and all of that. There are statistics to back it. I'm not saying it. There are statistics to back it. Now, if the bill becomes law, it would fuel fear, hatred, and violence. There is a point in there. You can't take it away. Even here, efforts to combat HIV/AIDS, there is a point. But I'm saying that the reverse is also true. It has been proven, I believe, even in Ghana's case, that that community has a higher prevalence when it comes to HIV/AIDS. So if you make the point, then you must make it from both angles. Now, it could fuel fear, hatred, and violence. I do agree, but how about how we've been with this already? How many attacks have there been on the LGBTQI+ community? Let's not drive anyone into fear. Let's not treat anyone partially, but realistically. How many of such incidents? We highlight the one or two that happen and the shutdown of some office somewhere. So I'm saying let's be practical with it. Let's not go overboard with any of the applications, right? We shouldn't enjoy throwing people in the can. In fact, our jails are bursting at their seams. I would have wanted to opt for more community service rather than non-custodial sentences. But be that as it may, if we're going to apply the law, it must be applied with a human face. It must. Now, moving on from there, Rightify Ghana. It says Empower for Better. It's one of those groups. It says it strongly condemns the regressive, they call it regressive legislation, which poses a severe threat to the rights and freedoms of the LGBTQ+ individuals in the country. It also says this legislation disregards democratic principles and human rights enshrined in Ghana's constitution, infringing on fundamental human rights such as freedom of speech, expression, privacy, association, and assembly. Now, this exacerbates the existing inequalities and marginalization of the LGBTQ+ individuals. Next slide. Right. So, has this bill been passed? Is it in effect? Is anything happening now? The answer is no. The president has to give his assent to the bill before it becomes a law. Now, I do realize that there are different sides to this coin. All I'm saying is, let's do what's right, let's apply the law, but let's be human. And let's not victimize people. This is a huge platform, right? I'm reaching out. Don't assume someone is gay, for example, then you start attacking them. Makes no sense. In any case, if we have a law and a bill now, and if it is signed into law by Mr. President, then we must go according to the tenets of the law. In fact, Sam George and the others also made mention of this. So while I'll listen to the Professor Gachakbos and the rest and all the other claims they make, if we're sticking strictly to what we said we would do, there really should be no problems. But even as we move on, I just want to wrap on this. Let's listen or hear what Mr. President has had to say and what Sam George and others have had to say. So, Nana Addo Akufo-Addo, speaking at the installation of the second Archbishop of the Anglican Church of Ghana on February 27, 2021, said, I have said this before, and it is not necessarily the same, but linked. I have said this before. Let me, in conclusion, stress again that it will not be under the presidency of Nana Addo Akufo-Addo that same-sex marriage will be legal, that same-sex marriage will be legalized in Ghana. It will never happen in my time as president. That's what he said. Now, this is the challenge that Sam George throws to Mr. President, if we may go to the next slide. He says, We want the president to walk his talk by appending his signature to the bill to enable it to come into force. Next slide. Now, of course, what this means is that it also puts Mr. President in a bit of a tight situation. He's caught between the devil and the deep blue sea. He has a conundrum, and I wouldn't want to be in his shoes right now because there's the international community and some boons that supposedly we could lose, but there's also the reality on the ground in Ghana. And he has said that where the people stand is where he will stand. So is he going to use, for example, I don't want to call it an excuse, but the pattern of not signing private members' bills to say, well, this is going to take a shot, have an impact on the consolidated fund, because if people go to jail, it's government that has to foot the bill, their feeding and all of that. So I'm not going to sign it. The pressure on that will be much more than it has been on any other issue, including the 3 other bills that have not been signed on to by Mr. President. But moving on from there, something else that tangentially reflects on President Akufo-Addo. At his SONA recently, it was so glaring. Mr. President either forgot or intentionally failed, whether it was his team or his own intention, to touch on corruption. Corruption, which Akufo-Addo spoke about copiously, vociferously, ferociously in 2015-2016. Absent. Galamsey, he put his presidency on the line and said he would tackle it. Absent. Unemployment, the statistics are staggering. Absent. The Akosombo flood victims, I felt particularly incensed about that. Absent. Even, I believe, when the Apiate thing happened, he spoke about it. Absent. The question is why? Next slide, as I get ready to conclude. And if you look at our final slide, in fact, just taking a quick look at the frequency of keywords used by Mr. President during the SONA. He mentioned the economy 4 times. You will see a certain pattern, okay? Things where the government is struggling. He mentioned it very few times. Economy, only 4 times. IMF, only 3 times. But then roads, where he's been waxing lyrical, 10 times. Jobs, they are struggling there too, only 6 times. Tax, 6 times. Performance tracker, 5 times. I want to see that tracker. IMF 3, elections 10, security 17, education 19, free SHS 8 times, debt 12 times, digitalization 9 times. But interestingly, corruption, nothing. Unemployment, nothing. Galamsey, nothing. Akosombo flood victims, nothing. I belong to that group that says the president missed a glorious opportunity to reconcile Ghanaians, bring us together. I don't know why. I feel our politicians sometimes think if they confessed to us. Kufuor did it. He said, listen, I made certain projections about our coffers, our state coffers and all that. I was in the wrong. Things are staggering here. They are much worse than I expected. Ghanaians pardoned him for that. They voted for him again in 2004. I do not know for the life of me why our politicians think we are so gullible that sometimes insult our intelligence and also feel that if they apologized, we wouldn't understand. Mr. President, the executive, members of the legislature, even the judiciary, we are all human. We all err. It is human. And if you do something wrong and you apologize, we'll not kill you for it. Who knows? We just might love you for it. My name is Benjamin Akakpo. These are my blunt thoughts shared with you this Friday morning, the first day of March. Hot, raw, well, maybe not so hot today. I've been pretty cool. Raw, unedited, undiluted. God bless our motherland Ghana and make her great and strong. Welcome back on the AM show. Of course, we delve into the big stories now, and later on some of these, we'll be hitting the streets as well on our citizens' microphone to give you the microphone, a voice to share with us what you think. But let's kickstart the conversation with the LGBTQI plus bill. There have been mixed reactions to Parliament's passage of that bill. Now, while we await President Akufo-Addo's decision on the bill to give his assent or otherwise, and the processes that could follow that in Parliament, the conversations will still go on from many divided, divergent angles. Today, we're having an interaction with the former General Secretary of the Christian Council of Ghana in the person of Reverend Dr. Kwabena Opunefrimpong, who heads the Alliance for Christian Advocacy Africa. He is our guest on this discourse. Rev, good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining the conversation.
Good morning, Ben, and let me say good morning to your team and your charity viewers.
Right. Off the top, right, what was your reaction to the passage of this bill, the LGBTQI plus bill?
Yes, Ben, thanks for the opportunity. Last Wednesday was February 28th, and the Parliament of Ghana gave Ghanaians another reason to be proud of ourselves as Ghanaians. I have in mind the great sons and daughters of this country that somewhere around Osu were killed. The Ajetes, the Lamtes, the Atipos, who, working towards the independence of our country, not only for themselves, for unborn generations, rose up against some oppressors and outside forces so powerful at that time, but they stood up for generations unborn, and today we have something to celebrate as a people. That is what it seems to me the parliamentarians did last Wednesday, another February 28th. And to me, that is what the president of this country must continue. We must not disconnect from February 28th. He must sign the bill quickly to complete the process.
How quickly is quick enough for you, and how slow will be too slow?
You see, the bill is a national concern. Our friends, Sam George and others, only sponsored it in Parliament, but the conversation was there, a national concern. So what happened last Wednesday is a national concern that the president must give a national response.
Where a national response will be what exactly? You cannot say that every Ghanaian, every last Ghanaian feels the same way about this bill.
That is exactly what democracy is about.
Right.
Nana Addo is our president not because everybody voted for him.
Right.
And we have our MPs. But the more Ghanaians, traditional leaders, faith-based organizations, Christian, Muslim, civil society groups, say we have seen this thing elsewhere, it's not good for us. And the People's House, Parliament, unanimously, and they represent the various people, constituency. That is what I mean by a national concern that must attract a national response. And then we are in election season.
Right.
If the president keeps waiting, at Parliament it receives a national response. If the president doesn't sustain the process, and even there's a long break, before you are aware, the conversation will change, and the way we do our things here, it will become political thing, and it will not help anybody.
Are you afraid there's a real possibility of that happening?
I won't use afraid, but I am concerned that such family, such moral issues should not divide us. If somebody even wants to go to court, want to go to Parliament and raise the issue again, go on the street, come and sit in your media platform, that is another thing. But for the president, he must sign and complete the process so that at least you still keep this country together. Now, if he...
And so your suggestion then, you say so that we can still keep this country together. by extension, are you saying that the country will fall apart if he doesn't give his sense of the bill? Don't get me wrong. I'm only playing devil's advocate to look at all angles.
Actually, that's why you are my friend. You see, before Sam George and the others sent the bill to Parliament, you could imagine the conversation, the tension. Some Indian embassies and ambassadors were all coming into the picture. The tension here and there, and people were doing all kinds of things. Now, ever since the past 2.5, 3 years that the issue went to Parliament, you realize that people became a bit calm.
Right.
And that is the cohesion I'm talking about. Not everybody agree, but there's some level of cohesion. If we wait a little bit, then the division will come. Which party supports it, which political party doesn't support it, and which MP supports it, which MP doesn't. And
I think that was settled in Parliament when the Speaker asked anybody from any side to stand up. No one stood up. Though there have been concerns raised by the likes of Akufo-Addo, the Minister for Communications and Digitalization, together with the majority leader now, Alexander Afenyomarkin, who felt that instead of custodial sentences where people may have to go to jail, now in this case for 3 to 5 years, they could have non-custodial sentences, community service among the rest. What do you feel specifically about that point?
Ben, I'm not a lawyer, so the details about the law, I will still want to stretch my patience and allow the lawyers who understand the implications of commas and dots and semicolons to come in. But my point is, the bill is a national concern. The issue there about moral family life, you see, it's families that determine the strength of nations. I'm a pastor. The strength of a church have a lot to do with families, church members, where are they coming from? And therefore, anything that we want to do to protect the family, we must come together to do it like the Parliament did. But if other people have issues, that is what democracy is all about. The cameras are still there. But now the president must put us together and sign this quickly. But other people who want to raise the issue, going to court, challenge it here and there, going back to Parliament, then the process can continue. If the president keeps waiting and we don't know what he's going to do, then another level of conversation begins. If even he decides he is not going to assign how many of his party people support him, how many people of his party don't support him, and which political party support the bill, and in electoral or election environment, we will be having national conversations that may not be helpful then.
Right. Let me just run you through some of what has come to the fore from different states and organizations on the back of this. The United States Department of State says the bill threatens fundamental freedoms such as speech, press, and assembly for all Ghanaians, particularly those identifying as parts of that group. Criminalizing LGBTQI plus individuals and those who do not report them undermines societal rights as a whole. The United States supports calls for a review of the bill's constitutionality. That means they are looking at the constitutionality, saying that it doesn't hold constitutional merit. I don't know whether that will have to go to the courts to safeguard the rights of all individuals in Ghana. UNAID says the bill has not yet become law, but its potential enactment would impact everyone in Ghana. They say Ghana has a reputation as a stable country upholding the rule of law and its commitment to human rights principles, including equality and non-discrimination. And here it gets interesting. They say, if the bill becomes law, it could fuel fear, hatred, and violence against LGBTQI plus citizens, impede access to essential services, and hinder Ghana's development progress, including efforts to combat HIV/AIDS. Rightify Ghana goes along the same lines, talking about freedom of speech, expression, privacy, association, and assembly. How do you react to all of these? Some have said that there could even be the consequences of some of our statesmen and women, so to speak, not being able to travel to certain places on the back of that. What do you make of it?
Ben, I have much respect for all the institutions and the individuals that you have mentioned.
Right.
But Ghana is not isolated case. We went to some of the Islamic countries for World Cup, and they told FIFA in the face, we will build all the stadium, we will welcome you, but nobody should bring LGBT things here. Initially, there was a challenge everywhere. Eventually, all the nations you are mentioning went to the tournament, and even captains were not allowed to wear bands of certain colors. And they had a very successful tournament. They all watched them. Recently, the Prime Minister of the UK said publicly, man is a man, a woman is a woman cannot be
a man. He got a lot of backlash for that, but he said it
fine.
Anyway.
What did they do to him? And even he used a word that I'm reluctant to repeat on your platform. UK. What did all the bodies you mentioned, what did they tell the Prime Minister? There are still people in US. They should not give us, we need them. They have been one of our best partners. But this bill is a Ghanaian bill. We are not preparing a law for US or any other country. As of now, recently, the Pope came out with the situation. African bishop said, Pope, Father, sorry, we can't do this. Cardinal Archbishop of Canterbury raised this issue for Anglican bishops. They said no. What have they done to all these Americans that are saying trans women cannot enter into bathrooms of women? Sporting activities. Trans women cannot join sporting activities of women in U.S. in some states.
Right.
What have they done? Can they travel or they can't travel? Why do you leave all these people and come to us? They did that to Uganda. The Prime Minister was denied visa. But your own people are traveling everywhere in states where trans people are not allowed to enter into women's bathrooms. So we love them, we respect them, but we are doing what is good for us. And that democratic journey, they must allow us to do what is good for us. In a can they say, these things may not help us. And for the sake of democracy, the sake of our national sovereignty, somebody must not threaten us with aid. At least our president is saying that we must build Ghana beyond aid. And maybe this was the time then.
All right. The president is saying we must build a Ghana beyond aid, and maybe this is the time and the opportunity. Rev, thank you so much for joining the conversation. Reverend Dr. Kwabena Opuni-Frimpong heads the Alliance for Christian Advocacy Africa, and he's also been General Secretary of the Christian Council of Ghana. But moving on quickly with our conversation, we're also going to be engaging the new head of the Environmental Protection Agency. His Excellency, the President, has appointed a new head for the EPA. He's in the person of John Kingsley Krugu. He is our guest now on the show. Mr. Krugu, good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for joining the conversation.
Thank you very much.
This is at least the second time or so that we're having an interaction, right?
Yes.
And it's been good. So congratulations are in order.
Thank you.
Right. And before we get into that, though, since we've been talking about the LGBTQI thing, what do you think about it? The bill has been passed. The president has to give his assent. And I'm sure I've even gone through some of the divergent opinions on it. What do you make of it before we get to the substantive conversation?
I think we are into a new territory altogether, because the line between protecting our family values and our cultural values and respecting and protecting human rights is a very thin line. Okay. And I think one of the questions that whether the bill is translated into law and its implementation and all of that, one of the bigger issues on the table, it is not about the practice of homosexuality, for example, because that is already illegal, punishable by law in our constitution. So, but the challenging questions that all of us are going to get into is this question of promoting the practice.
Right.
And the limits to what exactly, to draw the line, where does it end in promoting the practice.
Right.
And that is where human rights people are raising concerns and the possibility of excesses around that. I think that is where it is not clear to all of us how this is going to span out in public, okay? So to what extent does that actually mean? So for example, if I'm a medical practitioner and I attend to someone, who is gay or lesbian, will I be construed to promoting the practice? Or
I think the bill is clear on that. It doesn't in any way wade into such
yes.
matters.
So the bill is clear, but excesses can happen.
True, that I agree with.
Can always look for windows to take advantage of certain practices.
True.
Those are the aspects that it is not clear, because we haven't walked on that path before. So it is not very clear what is going to happen in practice. As to the questions around the human rights questions that has been raised and whether the president would assent to it and all of that, we leave that purely to the lawyers and the legal advisors to the president to decide. Yeah.
Well, some have said, like you heard Reverend Opuni from Pong, he was saying, listen, he needs to deal with this and deal with it timeously, quickly. But of course, Mr. President will also have to do his work. And I think he's indicated time and again that he will not be forced or coerced or rushed into anything. So, but in the end, I believe Ghanaians generally will have their own expectations, and it will be up to Mr. President to determine what the way forward is. Recently it's interesting because he mentioned at the SONA that the buck stopped with him.
Yes.
He said it, the buck stops with me. After he had said it would only be an unwise president who will not listen to the advice of his... And some felt that was a jab at the vice president because the picture has been painted that, and he says it's only an unwise president who will not take the advice or counsel of his officials. But in another breath, he then went on to also say, the buck stops with me. So now the LGBTQI bill, the buck stops with him.
And don't forget, he's also, all throughout his life, has been a human rights advocate. And so personally, he has...
when this comes up, I always have my own...
appreciation of these issues,
He was the same one who superintended. I mean, we saw law students getting beaten, whipped, all kinds of... So let's not... The human rights thing, yes, we can play it, but other reflections on him are not necessarily
take away
demonstrations and all of that.
The contribution of His Excellency the President,
right,
to expanding the borders of human rights in this country.
I see.
Whichever way you look at it. So nothing can take away. He's been in the forefront of fighting for our rights for years, for decades, And his contribution, if you check in the records, it's clear and he has a very clear mindset when it comes to matters of human rights. So I have no doubt that he would reach a decision that will be in the interest of the general public.
Right. Let's get down to your role as new head of the Environmental Protection Agency. When do you officially take over, or have you already done that?
Let me start by thanking the President for the honor done me, and the honor done also for the people of the Upper East region in general. And of course, my revered traditional leader, the Zugurana Bokunava. This is an honor that I intend to take to him, and to thank the President for it. I think that it is a huge responsibility. It's a call to duty, a call to serve. And I take my responsibility very serious. Of course, I would resume work on the 5th of March. So that is just coming Tuesday. But that is very well because this is not too much of a new thing to me. You know that I have been coordinating the landscape restoration and small-scale mining project in the last few years, And I've been working very closely with the Honorable Dr. Kokofu, who has been leading the EPA. And the EPA is a key agency in the implementation of the landscape restoration and small-scale mining project. As a matter of fact, the landscape restoration component is led by the EPA. And then the small-scale mining component is led by the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources. And I have been jostling between these agencies, in coordinating the implementation of that project. So I've worked very closely with the Honorable Dr. Kokofu. He's done a brilliant job at the EPA. And I've been working with colleagues at the EPA, a cadet of highly skilled professionals who knows exactly what they are doing. And I'm very excited that I am going to work with them to continue the brilliant work that Dr. Kokofu has done in the last few years, and to do the best way to thank the president is to take this job serious and contribute to environmental governance and environmental sustainability, the vision that he wants to get achieved. And I'm looking forward to that.
What is the state of our environment and its protection? In recent times, we've spoken about the air quality in Ghana, Accra, some parts of the country. You look at sanitation issues. People talk about noise pollution, which here we do not take so seriously. I am a staunch Catholic, firm Christian, yet you'll have someone put up a church building right behind your edifice. Who even gave a permit? You can't just cite a church building anywhere, but these people are there. And at night, when you've had a long day and you're trying to get some rest, that is when, they'll get spiritual and disturb you for hours and all of that. If you're unfortunate and they are having an all-nighter, you are dead. So all of these are in there, and we don't even see real action on these. All of these go down your alley, right?
Yeah. So yes, I mean, it's true. All the things you are saying, they matter, and they have implications for what we call environmental governance and sustainability. It is about the growth and development of a nation in general, and our own culture, where we are coming from. Okay, so you just spoke about the fact that you want to sleep, and then somebody is playing a loud thing next to you, and if you go and try to tell them that, please, I need to sleep, if you are not careful,
you might get beaten.
They will organize a bigger prayer meeting against your
in response to show you some small.
So this is where we find ourselves as a nation, but we are growing out of that. And a lot of education is going into that. The EPA has been leading that,
right.
A lot of education and getting people to begin to understand that the environment is a public good. It's not a private thing. You cannot just decide that you are going to do this irrespective of what is happening.
Your enjoyment of the environment ends where someone else's enjoyment begins.
Absolutely. And when it comes to public goods, it's a shared responsibility. And all of us will have to be recognized that whatever you do, it has implications for other people as long as it's affecting the environment, whether it is effluent discharge into the water bodies, or it is noise pollution, or it is air pollution, or even it affects agriculture and anything. And that is why my job, and when I resume, it's also about working in collaboration with all the other allied agencies. You can address environmental issues without the Forestry Commission, without the Minerals Commission, without the Water Resources Commission, and other agencies, that you need to work and coordinate, and all of us have to do our bit, especially when it comes to education. Because to be able to appreciate that what I am doing has implications for the environment and it will affect other people. That kind of appreciation, you know.
Even building on a waterway,
exactly,
for example, because you know definitely that this thing you're doing is going to have implications. Building on a certain mountainous range, we see that in the Waja McCarthy Hills area. You know that where you are building, there could be a problem, and then when your edifice, if it is affected, and if there's a mudslide or something and it comes down, human life will be lost. Yet people are building. But one quick point is that sometimes, like even with the noise pollution, there are certain decibels that are not even good for humans. You're going beyond that, and someone goes to report. Nothing is done, or sometimes something is collected from the back and then case Yamutu. And you have to go through it. So there are plush areas. I know this place in East Legon, where right behind the house. It took the community a long time before these people moved from there.
You know this phrase, nothing happens. I got to appreciate it when I became national coordinator for landscape restoration, small scale mining. Because what you hear every day, especially when it comes to issues in the mining sector, you hear people say, no, the government is doing nothing. The government has lost the fight and all of that. So anytime we say that nothing happened, we have to be careful. Because some of the issues we are confronted as a nation, change is not going to happen midnight. You're not going to wake up
overnight
and then people change their attitude, change their behavior, and then you get the kind of results.
But I'll tell you this. I have to make this point. I may forget.
Okay.
I may forget. Yes. I'll tell you this though. That change in even the developed economies and all of that, give anybody an opportunity. They will not only avoid tax, they may evade tax.
Yes.
Avoidance is legal. Evasion is illegal. Even there. Why will they not do it? Because they know that if you are caught, there are certain processes that will follow. Now, you spoke about mining. You go to an area where district directors of the Forestry Commission are telling you, we tried to fight this thing. We go into the forest, we find people with this and that, doing this, no permits, no licenses, and this and that. Then you get a call from above, and they'll keep pestering you. Even traditional rulers, people in government. So what are you saying?
Yes, so that's exactly my point. I'm saying that one of the things that Nana Addo would be remembered for is taking a long-term perspective and view to dealing with the gamut of issues in the mining sector, for example. And those kind of thinking, if you want a long-term solution, a sustainable solution, your people will not see it overnight, that the following day something has changed and then they clap hands for you.
In the minerals area in Galamsey, for example, the president has been there for 8 years. After how many years did he put his presidency on the line? Right after taking office, not too long after that. It's been 8 years.
You think nothing is happening. And that is the point.
We would see the writing on the wall, wouldn't we?
Institutional strengthening doesn't happen overnight. Institutional strength. You just talked about.
So in the midst of strengthening the institutions, the problem becomes worse.
No,
what does that point to?
It doesn't get worse. The president has taken a two-pronged approach to dealing with the issue. Most of what you media people see and know is the Galam stop. Okay, the military approach. They go and arrest, and then they decommission equipment and all of that. Is what you see. You know, what you don't see is the institutional strengthening. What you don't see is how many vehicles has been procured for the Minerals Commission to strengthen the inspectorate division to make sure that they are able to do their work. What you don't see is how many legal instruments are being changed and how many frameworks are being put in place, and even how much of these processes are being digitalized to avoid this big man taking the phone and asking them to stop and not being caught. Okay, so when you succeed in putting an efficient process, mechanism in place, you prevent the big man, because the big man will know that if I pick the phone and call and ask them to stop, somebody is going to track it because there is a monitoring system in place that is checking who is behind what. So that kind of system you don't see that on a daily basis, but I can tell you that what has been done, the work that has been done at the Minerals Commission, at the Forestry Commission, at the EPA, which I'm going to lead now, and PMMC and all those agencies, GGSA, all those agencies, the work that has been put into it, and the institutional strengthening activities that are ongoing there. We are getting into, I'm not surprised, getting into the vision of Dr. Bawumia, which is the golden age of natural resource management, where the Ghanaian people to whom the minerals belong to them will benefit, but the environment can be protected for future generations.
I have two questions for you.
Yeah.
One, you're a member of the MPP.
Yes.
If the former administration, or any other administration for that matter, but usually you are boxed into a corner because it's only NDC and MPP that have ruled in the Fourth Republic.
Yeah.
If the former president had had 8 years, and within those 8 years, he had made promises like Akufo-Addo had made on Galamsey, and in his 8th year, we were where we were, after all the procurements that you speak of, after all the money that has been spent, and that's another issue altogether. When you look at the millions, tens, hundreds of millions that have been pumped into this, and what we still see. I don't know the last time you saw the Ankobra, the Pra, and all of those other rivers. Yeah. And even some that were not polluted, that now are getting highly polluted. I don't know how you would have assessed him after 8 years, especially when that president put his presidency on the line. If it weren't someone in this administration, but in the former administration, would you be saying the same things you're saying? Then two, what are you more concerned with? Words, purported actions, or hardcore results? Which one? So two questions for you.
Yes, so with your first question, if it were the former administration, I think I would have been inadequate to be able to do a thorough assessment.
But you would have been able to throw pot shots from outside,
I wouldn't have known the kind of work that has gone into institutional strengthening. In this case, where I sit, the kind of work that has gone into institutional strengthening, I would have a positive assessment of him because look, and listen to me carefully. When it comes to system strengthening, resource takes time. And the president told us one time that, look, if we want to do it well, we need to strengthen the institutions. And his point was that Ghana has a robust legislation when it comes to environmental management.
Right.
He also says that the institutional framework is there. You have the Mineral Commission, the EPA, forestry. It is not like that in all other African countries. So you have the institutional framework. If we are going to succeed,
it may not be like that in all other African countries, but still,
yes,
Sir John was able to appropriate part of the Achimota.
If we are going to succeed
to himself and even will it out.
If we are going to succeed, yes, the president said if we are going to succeed, we need to look into the institutions and ask hardcore questions, which is what I've been doing in the last 2 years. What is it that can that the Minerals Commission, the EPA, the Forestry Commission, Geological Survey Authority, Water Resources Commission needs to do for us to be able to make progress in this direction? And I tell you, so much work has happened. And I am convinced that we are going to see the results and the impact of that. You said, what is more important? I mean, action is more important. Action speaks louder than words.
Yeah, I intentionally put words there.
Yes.
Words. I gave you words.
Actions.
I gave you purported actions.
Yes.
And then I gave you results. In the end, what do you want?
It's a purposeful action. Okay.
Right. Purposeful action without results.
No.
What does that mean?
There cannot be purposeful action without results.
You can put a lot of work into something and still get no results.
But when it is purposeful and well thought out action, you get results. And I think that is what has been happening in the last few years, that the president has put us together, and with the Honorable Samuel Abu-Jinapor. He's done a fantastic job in this sector.
Let me quickly do this before I ask you about the agencies you're going to be working with and what you will be doing further. The president put his presidency on the line. So let me ask you, has he succeeded in fighting Galamsey, or has Galamsey fought back, defeated the president? What would you say? Just give me your brief thoughts on that.
No, the Galamsey has not defeated the president. I can tell you that he's not very happy at where we are. He believes that we can do more, we can do much better, and he keep pushing us to the limit to say that, look, you guys, you got to get the results out. You got to make sure that we make the needed progress. But I can also tell you that they laid the infrastructure that has been laid down, the framework that has been put in place, the coordination, and I can't repeat this, the long-term view. He says that, look,
so let me make it easier for you. Let me make it simpler for you.
He's happy with the military approach. He says it's firefighting. Certain things cannot wait. You can't wait to have a committee to kill a snake.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how well has Akufo-Addo fared in fighting Galamsey? 1 to 10 for you. And our viewers are watching. Some are sending interesting messages. On a scale of 1 to 10.
I think I would say 7.
7.
Yeah.
Okay. Many Ghanaians would disagree with you, but that's your opinion, and everyone is entitled to one.
Yeah.
As we conclude the conversation, I'd like to find out from you, so which agencies are you targeting to work hand in glove with to ensure that your term as head of the EPA goes smoothly, and that within this period, you do the best you can for Mother Ghana? And when we are done, lest I forget, just add for me, I know you are the MPP's parliamentary candidate for Zabila, right?
Yeah.
You can tell us a bit about your constituency.
Yes,
and,
so
what your expectations are come election 2024.
Thank you very much. I have already mentioned that it is impossible to look into the environmental governance sphere without collaborating closely with allied agencies and institutions. Critical in this is the Forestry Commission, the Lands Commission, of course, the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources, and all the agencies under that ministry is critical. But the same thing with Ministry of Food and Agriculture, especially Cocoa Board, and when you go to Water and Sanitation, you have the Water Resources Commission. All these agencies, we need to work together, and I look forward to working closely with these agencies that have been coordinating with in the last few years, and now switching role a little bit to be in more of a leadership position,
right,
and coordinate working with them. I mean, just before I entered into this studio, Mr. Alote,
the studio, right.
Mr. Alote called me from Kenya, where he's currently on an official visit, and he called me to congratulate me and said he's looking forward for us to working together. Right. And that is the way I look at it, that it is more of collaboration, and that is the beauty of the project I've been coordinating.
Right.
It's actually among the first projects that was designed in such a way that you have no option but to work with other agencies.
Right.
So it's one of the deep thinking that the president put into this whole how we can formalize this informal sector
Right.
to make sure that we do that. In terms of my candidature, yes, I thank the good people of Zebila and the Electoral College.
And Zebila, remind me, whom are you going against again? The name just escapes me. The NDC's contestant.
The Honorable Ebenezer Ndebila.
Yes.
My opponent from the NDC. But we are not just two.
I know there are others, but
there's a third one.
It's his name I had forgotten.
But there's a third important because you remember the late John Debugri.
In Debugri,
our respected icon who passed on. His daughter, Patience.
I see where you're going. You feel she's going to pour sand into the gari of the NDC. No, I see, but we know that's what you're suggesting.
I don't believe so.
We know that's what you're suggesting.
She's a threat to me as she is a threat to Ndebila. So
I see.
We're all going to fight for turf.
Right.
So I look forward to a very healthy contest. We are mutually, we respect each other very much. So we look forward, especially Mr. Ndebila and I came from development work. We share a common profile, and we look forward to telling the people of Zebila what each of us can offer and allow the electorate to make a decision.
Okay.
And I believe strongly that, they would choose me for what I have done and what I intend to do.
I think we've spoken about what you've done a bit. Maybe next time we'll get to speak more about you as a parliamentary candidate instead of you as head of the EPA. But thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mr. Krugu, for joining us in the studio. It's been great having you. And that is John Kingsley Krugu. He is head of the newly appointed head of the Environmental Protection Agency. He says from the 5th of March, right?
Yeah.
The 5th of March. That would be a Tuesday.
Yeah.
He is actually taking office fully, and he has interesting plans for Ghana. But stay with us. When we return, something else will be Abeka say, our environment be environment. Yesterday, I had a power outage. It went through the night up to a certain point. Many people have been experiencing power outages. And it is said it is not doomsday, but the question is, what is it? If you've experienced power outages, the next conversation is for you. We just might activate the phone lines at a point. So stay with us. We'll be right back. Thank you for staying with us. On this angle of the conversation, we'll talk about power. Have your lights been on? And if not, what has the situation been? And how would you characterize it? Doomsday or something else? I slept in darkness for some great lengths yesterday after returning from church. Eventually, the light did come on, but people have complained about 6 hours, 12 hours, 24 hours without light. What is the situation? Why are we where we are? Joining us for a conversation from the Institute for Energy Studies, Nana Addo the 7th. He is Executive Director of the IES. Nana, memoache.
Yodo Anape, and I'm happy the way you guys are highlighting our local language this morning and bringing it to the fore. Nikia would say Funara.
Medasi Bebre. Yo. So let's get to the meat of the matter. Power has become a problem. What do you know? How much can you share in respect of why we are where we are and what the reality is on the ground?
Well, thanks for having me. And another point of correction is Institute for Energy Security, not Studies.
Institute for Energy Security. Thank you very much, sir.
Good one. What we know is that the power, the quantum of power turned out by the power producers is not enough to meet our demand. So that's what the problem is. And if power turned out is lower than the load, then of course parts must be fed, or that load must be shared. And the one that is in excess must be shared to accommodate what has been produced. If we don't do that, there will be either low voltage or brownout or blackout. And so what's happening is we are producing less than we demand as a country.
And looking at the current situation we're facing then, what would you say are the areas we really ought to be tackling? Because there's the WAPCO issue, gas, there are the IPPs, among others. It appears we have quite a situation hanging around our necks. Where exactly is the thrust of the problem?
Yes, we are having, less power generation because fuel to produce the power has been a challenge, particularly production of power from the Eastern Enclave that largely rely on natural gas from Nigeria. We own Nigeria, and so the flow of gas from Nigeria has not been as we require. It's been erratic since the beginning of the year. And so power producers, they are having less fuel to power their plants. That is the major problem that we have. And it is the case because we have a financial challenge in the sector. That is why at one point in time, you will have to endure what we are going through because either the producers are demanding money, fuel suppliers are demanding money, or the transporter of the natural gas, like WAPCO, once in a while will also come, demand of government to fulfill its commitment to that body. And so it's a financial challenge that brings us to this point.
It's a financial challenge. Have we done enough on the financial front then to address this crucial problem? Because the IPPs, we've been told about the debt stock. Some would say that doesn't even include some of the major IPPs, and that dust is being thrown in our eyes. We've been told that payments will be made by the ECG on behalf of this or that, but sometimes the picture is not so clear financially. What is the true state, the true picture you see?
Yes, we are tempted to believe that the president, instead of being led, is misled by managers of the power sector and probably other stakeholders. So he makes statements that are far from the case.
Nana, please correct me. Did you just say that the president sometimes is misled by the managers of the power sector?
We suspect so. Because the president comes to tell us as Ghanaians that under his tenure, we've never experienced so. It is not the case. We've experienced so on numerous occasions. Once in a while, we experience that as Ghanaians. And it's the consumer that defines what he or she is going through. It's not for the managers of the economy to tell us we are feeling. We feel it. And so we tell President that.
Oh, it's unfortunate. I think we just lost Nana Addo, the 7th Executive Director, Institute for Energy Studies. We'll try to get him back on the line, even as we prepare to also bring in Yusuf Suleiman, energy expert. He joins us all the way from Oman, that oil-rich country. We'll try to get Nana Addo back. But Mr. Suleiman, thank you so much for joining the conversation.
Thank you very much for having me.
Right. We'll get right back to your co-panelists, but to hear from you as well. You followed all the way from Oman how things are going in Ghana in the power sector. Nana Addo was just referencing what the president says, that under his tenure there has never been doomsday, and he says no, that is not the case. But what do you see? In recent times, we've had a lot of power outages. Just yesterday, leading to this morning, I had a power outage, and it's been frequent. What's your take? What is happening?
Yeah, thank you very much. Sorry. So these developments are not strange. I think the last time I had this conversation with you, I said we will come back to the same point if you continue to use the same strategy to solve a problem, and unless we think out of the box. What is the issue here? If you look at what is happening, there is a precedent, a huge precedent to that. We've grown so overconfident with our generation sector to the extent that we thought everything was okay. And then we stopped playing a lot of politics with the fact that we have excess capacity. And I've always argued that that is outmoded. We have to move away from saying having excess capacity, because it doesn't respect the senses of Ghanaian to say that we have excess capacity. Yes, we have a bit of them, so it doesn't match up. So what is the case here? If you look at Ghana generation mix, I always say that Ghana dependable capacity in terms of how much power we generate. I always say that we are always on the cliff. We are always sitting on tenterhooks. Why? Because if you look at what is the dependable capacity that we have, about 3,500, and our peak demand, especially somewhere in the evenings, they are almost at a point in time touching that figure. And so we knew about this. And so it's just going to take a little bit of a problem or a hitch from one place to the other to send us into erratic power supply that we have. And we have a couple of them, a couple of warning signs that were waiting for us by the end of the year, and we move into the new year. So it's not surprising. What were the problems? I can tell you on authority that if you don't make concerted effort to add a little bit of more capacity within our generation, it's going to be very difficult. Any slight glitch on any of the problems, be it gas supply, be it any technical issue on the supply point, be it money to fire this, thermal plants, we're going to have ourselves to blame because of how closeness the dependable capacity to what we are able to what the consumer needs at the end of on peak demand period. So yes, and then we've had beautiful opportunities that we let them slip by. For instance, Ghana is an oil producing country, and then we treat our energy and power sector as segregated entities. That is not a good strategy. In fact, the power sector thrives on petroleum sector, especially our kind of generation mix, where we have the thermal component composing a huge sum of our generation mix. With the renewables not coming up, we should have had a very firm handle on our gas supply, where we can ensure that we're able to supply gas from east to west, and we develop our gas infrastructure to be able to do. We haven't done that. If you remember, we had something called foundation gas. Foundation gas was Talo was supplying us with foundation gas over 200 billion cubic feet of gas supplied to Ghana free of charge for a considerable period of time. What did he do? We failed to take huge advantage of that. So I say that we failed in our strategy phenomenally or abysmally, and so we have to rethink and stop doing politics with energy sector. Other than that, it will come back to hit you. So what are the way forward? The whole thing is about finances. Finances has been the issue, and the way this, these various generations, these various power, value chains are streamlined. They are so intricately linked seamlessly that if there is an inherent problem within one generation, one component, the cascading impact on the other components are going to be dire. And here, our weak link has always been the distribution component of it. And so, because that's where the cash flow comes. If you don't maintain appreciable cash flow within the distribution arm of the value chain, then the transmission and then the generation, we are always going to have ourselves to blame. IPPs are standing, WAPCO is standing. If we have technical issues, with a bit of some pockets of technical issues, if you don't solve these issues, and they are solvable, it's not that they are not solvable. We just have to take the bull by the horn, make concerted effort, and be deliberate that power is key to our energy security. Our economic survival. And if you don't do that, and we keep complaining about problems, here and there, without having this pragmatic solution, bringing them on board to solve them, then we'll have ourselves to blame. And at this moment in time, Ghana cannot afford to knock out even a megawatt. I can say that. We can't afford to let even a single megawatt out of the power pool basket because of what I just painted. We haven't added anything substantial within our generation mix because we're so much overconfident championing that we have excess capacity, and we haven't done that. That requires investment. Where will the investment come in? Where the investment will come in is when we are able to maintain appreciable, sustainable cash flow from the distribution arm. That is where we need to do a lot of work.
Hold for me. Let me bring back Nana Addo, the 7th Executive Director, Institute for Energy Security. Nana Addo, I lost you. You were making a point.
Yes, we got to the point where I did conclude that we are going through this situation because of financial constraints, and that until that is solved, we are going to continue to do so for a very long time. It's not just this year alone. Next year we may be experiencing more doomsday because there are two things. beyond ensuring that you have a good or robust transmission and distribution grid, install capacity, adequacy in install capacity counts so much. Then, of course, fuel supply issue. Yes, I have concluded that even for install capacity, the previous government dealt with that adequately, and to the point where today our install capacity is in excess of 5,200 megawatts. Our dependable capacity is somewhere around 4,900. However, available capacity has become an issue. That's one point. Then the fuel supply challenge comes in. Are you able to pay the suppliers for the fuel? Are you able to pay the transporters of the fuel? If you don't manage your revenue in the sector, your revenue collection, and ensure that we have cost-reflective tariffs, the debt in the sector will be increasing day by day. And then your financial challenge will be worsened. And so we think that this is what is playing out. Because we shouldn't have been where we are today. We shouldn't have been seeing doom for at all. Because you have enough install capacity at close 2019. Then, of course, at close 2016, you have EFLA generating almost $650 million a year. So by 2023, EFLA have generated for you that free cash flow of more than $3.5 billion. It could defray the legacy debt at close to 2015. But today, we still have some of the debt, and our debt in the sector is increasing. Today, I'm sure by next year, our available capacity will not be, even our dependable capacity will not be enough.
Even our what capacity will not be enough?
Our installed capacity.
Installed capacity, right. By next year.
Down for 3 years complaining about excess capacity, and we failed to invest to bring on board other plants. Trust me, by next year, mid of next year, our power issue will be worse. Whoever inherits or forms the next government will have to struggle to deal with this power sector challenge we have.
Mr. Suleiman, is that something you share, a sentiment you share, that by next year, by the middle of next year, our power situation would be even worse, regardless of who takes power?
Akufo, is that directed to me? Sorry.
Yes, it is directed to you.
Yes, exactly what I said. Whoever takes, whoever forms the next government will struggle to deal with power sector challenges, because the debt in the sector is increasing day by day, and government hasn't made any effort to address it. Government owes GMPC, government owes WAPCO, government owes GRIDCO, government owes ECG, government owes IPP. Everybody in the value chain is owned by government. And ECG is not collecting enough. In fact, I have applauded their current revenue mobilization drive, and the gentleman there is doing it so well. However, the commercial losses, the technical losses within the ECG and GRIDCO system is so high that if you give them 1,000 megawatts, I'm not sure they can account for more than 700 megawatts. So that 300 megawatts becomes another debt in itself. Then, the cash waterfall system, the little they collect, that should have been placed in that cash waterfall system to be distributed fairly to all the utilities. It's not working. Akufo,
you're right.
We are sinking in debt in the sector.
In the midst of all this, Nana Mwesi, and I'll pose that question to both of you. In the midst of all of this, we heard Mr. President speak about solar energy, and we've heard plans about that in the SONA, among others. How crucial is it for us to find our way to green energy and tap into natural sources? I'll start with you, Nana Addo.
Well, so to invest in green energy is something that we ourselves have committed ourselves to. As a signatory to the Paris Agreement, that we should ensure that we have a net zero, situation by 2050. It behooves on us to advance to that very domain, and best to contribute to combating climate change, whether it's bringing some hardship, particularly in Africa. It's affecting, our crop generation. It's affecting our weather. It's affecting livestock and species and all that. And so we must move to the greener space. Fortunately, technology around renewable energy is growing day by day,
right,
and it's increasing. So cost in renewable energy is dropping, and so it's an advantage that we also have to take around that area beyond addressing climate, issues.
For you, Yusuf, what's your reaction? Hello, Mr. Suleiman. What's your reaction on that?
Yeah, so yes, I pretty support that. I straightforward support that. I always mention the fact that in this power sector, we have to be able to diversify our generation portfolio to be able to encapsulate that of renewables. We've set ourselves targets upon targets, but we haven't been deliberate. We haven't made any concerted effort, to meet those targets. If you quite remember, somewhere 2010, we said by 10 years, let's say 2020, we're going to be able to increase our renewables. Our generation mix coming from renewables should have grown drastically, let's say to 10%. We haven't done that. 2020 came, we couldn't do that. We had to extend the deadline to 2030. So yes, it is a huge advantage, and we have the potential to do that. Just imagine we have even private homes inundated with a lot of rooftop solar facility. That's going to take a lot of pressure from the grid, undoubtedly. It will take a lot of pressure from the grid. So it is in our best interest, and we have those opportunities. The sun is so much available in supply. We are not able to harness that. So these opportunities, what is the way forward? Ghana government will have to just open the space. Sometimes I thought the talking was that, we don't want investment to be there and then it will knock out the conventional generation mix or to compete with the conventional generation. We have moved beyond that. Now we need competitive power. And renewables, they are coming in record speed. With innovation, we can have solar. They have their challenges because of the seasonal nature of them. But with concerted investment and innovation, we can have competitive power supply that can guarantee us our power security within the sector. So yes, I pretty much 100% support the fact that if you get our acts right in the space of renewables and we have the potential, yes, we'll be able to solve most of this problem. If it's not going to solve any problem, but it will take a lot of pressure from the grid. Right now, there's a lot of pressure from the grid. And where we have competitive advantage, we are not utilizing it to our optimum ability. And that's where we are. So yes, I believe renewables are something that can guarantee us, the security that we need. We only need to open the space for private sector participation and make it easy. We can give incentives for private sector to enter into the space. If we do that, I believe it is something that will guarantee us a lot of security in the energy sector.
So moving forward, gentlemen, I want us to propose those solutions. You've already proposed some of them, but I want you to address, if you look at WAPCO and maybe the IPP situation, what can be done to ensure that the financial burden is eased and that we can meet our commitments and forestall power outages. What can be done by the upstream, the downstream, as far as our power situation is concerned? What should government do? So solutions moving forward, itemize them, 3 minutes apiece and 2.5 minutes, I think, and we can wrap. I'll start with you, Nana Addo. Nana, are you with me?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Good. We must address leakages in the transmission and distribution segment of the power sector. Manage the technical and commercial losses. That is one. Two, political interference. We must see and ensure that we allow the state entities to work freely. Number 3, the cash waterfall system must be seen to be working. Very, very important, so that the little revenue connect can be fairly distributed. Then also, ESLA must be accounted for and must be applied for its intended purpose. The other bit I also want to touch on is that government must engage with the interim power producers, on a very good footing, so that the sector debt can be well, brought to the fore. If you take their revenue and conclude that this is the amount you owe them, well, you know very well that there are exchange losses, foreign exchange losses to be dealt with, and there are idle capacity charges to be dealt with, then of course you are not being, open enough to accept your problems and address them adequately.
All right. I see a message coming through that says, so after all this excess capacity talk, we'll be running into Dumso again. And I can't read the end of what you write. It's not good for Ghana, but someone not being very optimistic about the situation. For you, Yusuf, what will be your concluding words on that? Hello, Yusuf Suleiman. Yes.
Yes. My concluding words will just, I'll just add to what Nana said. The point that he mentioned, I pretty much support that. I think we need to get our acts right with respect to our generation, our revenue generation. What we need to do there, we have, I can guarantee, I can say we have short to medium term and we have long term. The short to medium term or the short term that I can say is to get our revenue generation right, because that is what we can do now. That is what is available for us to be able to do. And how can we get it right? I think ECG need a bit of autonomy. And I think the kind of strategies that they have put in place in recent times, I commend them. And I think their leadership and the MD is doing pretty well. He just had to get, he needs support. And the support that he needs, we need to minimize a bit of, I think Nana mentioned that already, we need to minimize a bit of one way or the other interference as much as possible. Because at the end of the day, the distribution chain is our heart. If we get it wrong, all the other chains, we are going to get them wrong. So yes, just imagine we are told Parliament of Ghana owing about 23 million Ghana cedis. That is so humongous, if you ask it. And then there are other allied institutions that are owing that much, that is linked to government. So I proposed some time ago that if ECG even is finding it very difficult to tackle agencies that are linked to the government, they can privatize that portion of the revenue generation to private hands, ensuring that they'll be able to take that money from those who owe. Other than that, if you don't make concerted effort to retrieve the money with the power supplied to ECG and we cannot get the money, I think we're going to have ourselves to blame. Long-term solutions, I always say that, I started with the fact that we can't keep doing the same thing, and expect different results. Look at our power pool. Over 60 to 70% thermal generation mix. Where is the thermal coming from? Gas is our conduit. Now, we are operating our sector like the power and petroleum sector like segregated entities.
Right.
I recommend that long time that we link the two, where the power sector will supply, the petroleum sector will always supply gas to the power sector on commercial basis. If we do that, I think we're going to have the long-term solution to this issue that we have. Ghana Gas has to be retooled and made vibrant to be able to supply gas on commercial basis, competitive basis to the power generation. If not that, we're going to have ourselves to blame.
Thank you, gentlemen, for joining the conversation. Nana Mwesi the 7th is Executive Director, Institute for Energy Security. He joined us. We also had Yusuf Suleiman, an energy expert, joining us all the way from Oman. Do stay with us. We'll be back with more action on the AM show. Action, pertinent, germane, relevant to your life. We'll be right back. Thank you for staying with us. Now we're going to be telling you about something amazing we've been putting together. It's that latest grouping of professional bodies putting together a public speaking event, which we've gladly been sponsoring. And the question, the topic, has the Fourth Republic delivered? Faith leaders and good governance. It comes off on the 5th of March, that is Tuesday 2024, at the British Council at 6:30 p.m. The main speaker, Theodore Albright, the panelists, Abe Kusego and Susan Edu Amankwa. But joining me in the studio, one of the coordinators, Samuel Nkum Tenkrang. He joins the conversation with me in the studio. Mr. Tenkrang, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you.
Just explain to us what birthed this idea to speak on, to have this event, first of all, and to speak on this topic. Why this topic?
This arrangement, if I may put it that way, started last year.
True.
And we were fortunate to organize 3 of such public lectures at the same venue. Yes, and the overarching theme is the question of as to whether our Fourth Republic has delivered to the expectation of the citizenry. Yeah, that's a huge question.
Right.
And it has, multiple dimensions to actually look at such a question. Last year, as I said, we organized 3 lectures. The first one was on neoliberalism, as to whether the emphasis on, if you like, encouraging the private sector to take over, the economy, not take over, but to play the leading or dominant role in the private sector, whilst the state, the government, actually provides the enablement, as to whether we have managed to make some progress there. The second one was on mindset revolution. And the first one was delivered by Yao Nsako. The second one on mindset revolution, mindset change, looking at attitudinal, aspects of the, of the subject as to whether we have made some progress there. And that lecture was delivered by Akufo-Addo. Then the final one was in November, and the topic was, towards a common manifesto for the nation. It was quite an exciting one. We had the political parties, representatives to be there. And I think you've done well in helping us, collaborating with us in this agenda. This year...
Of course, we've enjoyed being a partner and joining this collaborative
we are very, very grateful.
effort.
We are very, very grateful. And I think it's just the beginning. Right. This year, the plan is to organize a lecture quarterly. So this is the first of the series. And the idea of looking at the faith leadership and their involvement in governance, good governance for that matter, that should be a topic to look at. Because the lawyers will say that matters of religion are also matters of state. It is the same citizenry, the same followership of the churches and the mosques. We know the 2 dominant, if you like, religions in the country. Christianity, about 71% or so, and then Islam, about 20%. What they do in their, their churches and the mosques, ideally, after the preaching, we should see the same, preaching and the message reflected in our body, politicking. But you and I, or you agree with me that we don't see that impact.
There's no necessary correlation. We don't see that reflection.
There's no correlation. So this lecture is more or less to throw out some ideas for public discourse. And as a democratic society, the kind of, if you like, democracy we are practicing can be open up points or discussion points for the citizenry to also have a say. And, when we judge, probably something useful will come out. So ultimately, we want to impact society or our, governance system and help direct it from within. We are looking at developing our country from within. Let's get our professionals, for that matter, to feel obliged to be involved.
Right.
Because personally, speaking for myself, I am not happy about events as to how professionals are staying aloof and leaving others to work.
And so it's a way of also getting all professionals involved. You can't be out there pissing in and saying that.
Let me also add that
others are not doing it well when you yourself are not contributing.
Professionals have been involved in the past.
Right.
Yes, in the 80s, even earlier, when we were under military,
for which some were incarcerated, others had to leave the country.
Yes. And we started this, if you like, to reinvigorate that agenda of getting professionals into the public space, getting involved in public dialogue. In the 90s, we tried to, bring them together. We didn't succeed. So this latest attempt is just to, if you like, rekindle that agenda.
So let's quickly go for it. I've already mentioned the title, Has the Fourth Republic Delivered Faith Leaders and Good Governance? But let's talk about where it's happening, what time it's happening, who is speaking.
Yes, that's on Tuesday, the 5th of March, at the British Council Hall. The main speaker is one Theodore Albright. He is a thought leader, he's a lawyer, strategist, and the managing consultant of the Family Office Africa. This is a multidisciplinary consulting firm. Okay. He helps, corporate bodies, if you like, structure as a thought leader and a strategist. His involvement is to actually support, corporate bodies to grow and achieve their goals and objectives.
Right.
And we have two, he is the main speaker. Then after the lecture, two panelists will join him.
Abe Kusego and Susan.
Kusego, we know him as an international award winner, an actor, and then a producer. Then Susan Edriamankwa. She is a public health pharmacist, a colleague, and if you know her, she's a very well accomplished social commentator, very interesting person. So that's how things will go, and we hope that. Let me add that it's apolitical. This arrangement is apolitical. We want to involve everyone. Everyone has a stake in national affairs. And when it comes to good governance, we want to stand for values that will bring everybody on board.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. The time is 6:30, British Council, Tuesday. It will be hosted by our very own Philip Osei Bonsu Obi, as we popularly call him. Can anyone attend this event? Is it going to have virtual ends to it so that people can join on social media or what? What is the...
There will be no virtual. We haven't made that arrangement. But then anyone, it is open to the public.
Right.
And at least we know that the place will fill up, capacity of about 250. But even if it overflows, we'll make provision for, that.
All right. And we'll definitely bring you bits of that as well right here on this network, Joy News. Any final words, Mr. Tenkran?
The final words is I want to, encourage our professionals to get involved in national dialogue. You can contribute to national dialogue and development for that matter, helping to lift up the livelihoods of our people without, getting into mainstream politics. It appears when you actually seek to find out why professionals tend to stay aloof. We have practiced this democracy for about 30 odd years, and most people have settled that yes, your voice will not go that far. So let me, retreat into recoil and then take care of my own and my family. But when it comes to faith and religion for that matter, in fact, the religion that is pleasing to our Maker, God, is the religion that takes care of others, especially the vulnerable in society. Right. And we know that this country has done so well, so much for professionals. I am number one. So what are we giving back so that we can take care of our citizenry, help lift them up?
And that's what we're doing.
Yes.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Tenkran, for joining the conversation. It's all about that thought leadership, the amalgam of professional bodies coming together for that public speaking event. Has the Fourth Republic delivered? Faith leaders and good governance. It's on the 5th of March, Tuesday, 2024, British Council, 6:30 p.m. Make it a point to join the conversation. But stay with us. We still have a little time on our hands. Dum Anaso. What's the situation where you are? All the issues we've discussed, you can join us via the phone lines as we have a conversation on that. 0302-211-691. We'll be right back. Pick up your phone. Let's talk about Ghana. Welcome back. As we wrap, we'd love to wrap with you. What is your take on some of the matters we've discussed? The EPA boss was here, spoke about it, how much the president had done to safeguard our environment by way of Galamsey. Before that, we had that interaction with Reverend Dr. Opuni Frimpong in respect of the LGBTQI plus bill. We've also spoken about power. What is your power situation? What you say? Ghana man tweet on so you bet me akabi. Into no for phone no twa we dey nya star call. Twa no say na obetwa no bia you bet you wasema ukra edemaye. So just share your thoughts with us, yeah? Share your thoughts with us. Ahomatrofo no fa na twa star call. 0302-211-691 0302-211-691. What are your thoughts for us? Let me go on social media and see some of what you've been sharing on our platform on Facebook. So let me get there because I think I saw something in respect of the power situation and some other comments. I'll look for that, but in the interim, time is ticking. Give us a call, 0302-211-691. What are your thoughts that you'd like to share with us this morning? We had also posed the question about what your expectations are this month. You could also call to share those. In the meantime, we have Albert from the Ahafo area, the Ahafo region, joining the conversation. Albert, good morning. Albert, please just listen to me on the phone, not on the TV. I can hear that you're getting feedback from the TV.
I'm listening to you on the phone.
Right, let's go. Go ahead, Albert.
Yeah, about the power at the power. It's happening, but my problem is that if there will be power off, why don't they inform the citizens so that we prepare for that?
Right.
Sometimes you will be there, the power will be off, and your TV will boom. You see, if we don't inform us, this can result in fire outage and this thing.
True.
That's that is my main problem.
Albert, thank you for sharing your concerns with us. And it's a concern for all of us. You are in the Ahafo region. Me, there are times when I get home and then you realize that, listen, your fridge has been off, sometimes and those power fluctuations. So that I always put every gadget off, but sometimes some gadgets, they have to remain on. And the impact, sometimes too, you are at home, even whether it's air conditioners, fans or whatever, the thing is on, 1 minute, it's off. And that thing they do, the erratic one, where sometimes in the space of 10 minutes, the light has gone on and come back, gone off and come back on about 5 times, 6 times, 7 times. I don't get it. It's just, but it is the situation. What is your situation? Call through and let us know. 0302 211 691. 0302 211 691. I was mentioning how we had also posed the question, what's the one thing you want to achieve this month? And some interesting comments that came through. One person said, financial freedom. Yeah, but in these times, it's not the easiest thing to do. If you get a good job, even with that, you look at the remuneration and everything in between and the bills, and you realize that it's not an easy task. It's a tall order. That was from Christian and Chroma. Benny Tom says, I want to relocate the Independence Square to the Cathedral venue and the Osu Castle to Pokwase. I found that one interesting. He wants to relocate the Independence Square to the Cathedral venue and the Osu Castle to Pokwase. Anyway, we have Raphael on the line from Takrade. Is it Takrade you're in?
Fine. Raphael from Takrade.
All right. Raphael, what are your thoughts for us? Are you experiencing the power situation?
No, I want to, it's like, within the week, I touched on the power situation. It's like, it's a bit improved in the Takrade community. But I want to touch on the LGBT.
Oh, on the what? LGBT, right.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I want to caution some of us, and mostly the parents, who think that LGBTQ is far from them because they are confined, their children, they don't go out, they don't practice. But it's a misconception. Something miraculously happened in Sodom and Gomorrah. To me, I think that one of the 7 wonders in the world happened in Sodom and Gomorrah. Do you know something? When Lot and his family were living in Sodom and Gomorrah, the daughters of Lot, they were virgins. And to me, to live in Sodom and Gomorrah to attain at the age of 25 to 30 and still a virgin is one of the 7 wonders in the world. It's a great achievement that the doctors were able to achieve for their father. Because the father may think that even though the environment, they are practicing immoral activities, but he has confined his children not to practice those immoral activities. But in the end, what happened to the kids? They committed the most abominable act in the world. They have an affair with their father. How were they able to get that knowledge? Because when they were in Sodom and Gomorrah, they were hearing, but they were not practicing. So it is like what they were hearing is being said in their subconscious. So when the critical moment when the critical moment happens to them, they have to apply what they have heard previously. So I'm causing everyone, this LGBT should be a concern to every Ghanaian.
Right. Thank you for sharing your thoughts with us. Thank all of you who called. If you're celebrating anything today, birthday and other anniversary, we celebrate with you. God bless you. Happy new month to you, and know that from us to you, we deeply love you. We are grateful that you join us every day on this network. Well, time for Sweetie Abochi and yours truly to move off. Up next is Joy News Desk right here on this channel. Do stay.